This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, where we celebrate the role players and the underdogs in sports. And our Moonlighter for today is a guy that I met almost exactly 18 years ago in the fall of my freshman year in college playing college baseball. At the time, I was an incoming freshman, of course, and he was a returning sophomore starter and one of the leaders on our team. And I remember I thought I knew a lot about the game of baseball going into college. But what I quickly learned is there were a lot of guys on the team that had played a lot more baseball than I did and frankly knew the game way better than I did. And Eric Stein was one of the guys that fits that role. He was a leader on our team then, and I quickly learned that if this guy wanted to get into coaching, I knew he was going to be successful at it. And today he is the head coach at Iowa Central. He's been coaching college baseball for the past 15 years, and he's one of the best baseball guys that I know. Now, Eric is from small town Iowa. He's from outside of a small town called Portsmouth, Iowa in southwest Iowa. And he grew up on a farm, Stein family farms. You know, they do row crop, they do livestock, and they're just good, really, really good people over there. And I always kind of wished I grew up on a farm. And Eric and his younger brother Heath, they always gave me a hard time because I always acted like I knew more about farming than I actually did, and these guys were actual farmers. And so I would pretend like I knew a lot about farming, and these guys would make fun of me for it. But frankly, I learned a lot about farming from hanging out with those guys a lot. And one of my favorite stories to tell is back when we were in college. Eric and I, when we'd get together, we like to play a little bit of cards. We like to drink a little beer every now and again. And we were at the local bar in Portsmouth, Iowa, a place called The Rocket, a really fine establishment. And, you know, we're drinking a little bit of beer, throwing some cards around, and end of the night comes, our ride comes to pick us up, to take us back to the Stein family farm. Sure enough, as we're pulling closer to the farm, we realize that the cows got out. So I mentioned that the Stein have livestock and they have cattle, and somehow in the middle of the night, the cows got out. So after a night of card playing and drinking a little bit of beer, Eric and I and his father, Larry, we spent about an hour and a half getting these cows back in the dark in a hot fall night. And it's one of my favorite stories. It's probably the most fun 90 minutes I've ever spent on a farm. And for that 90 minutes, I really felt like a farmer, which is a great segue into our sponsors here on the Moonlight Graham Show, the People's Company. If you're looking to buy a farm, if you're looking to sell a farm, I got the guys for you. Call Andrew Zelmer. Call Matt Adams at People's Company. Look them up at peoplescompany.com. They're the best in the business. I know they know a little bit about the Portsmouth, Iowa area. They know a lot about Southwest Iowa. So if you're looking to buy or sell, call Andrew Zelmer and Matt Adams at the People's Company. And enjoy today's episode with Moonlighter, Eric Stein, who would have been a heck of a farmer if he didn't choose to be an ultra-successful college baseball coach. Moonlighters, are you or someone you know moving down to Kansas City? Well, if you are, the one realtor that we trust and yet you need to be calling is the great Brian Sandvig. As you well know, Brian Sandvig is our producer here on the podcast, and there is not a better residential real estate advisor down in the Kansas City marketplace than Brian Sandvig. Call Brian Sandvig, shoot him a text. Hey, DM us on social media. We'll get you connected with Brian if you can't find him on all the socials, but he is there and he is active, and he is your Kansas City realtor, so give him a call. Eric Stein, head coach of Iowa Central Community College. Welcome to the Moonlight Graham Show.
The pleasure's all here, Tim. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel here. I thought maybe you did that with Ben Meyer's episode, but you might have dug a little deeper.
You know, we've had a couple of Moonlighters recently say, you must be out of people to talk to. They must forget that Ben Meyer was like the second or third episode we ever had on the podcast. Like, we started at the bottom and now we're here.
I respect Ben Meyer very little.
So, Eric, where I want to start with you is, you know, you are the head baseball coach of a college baseball program. I grew up with watching managers like Buck Showalter and Bobby Cox. Those guys really knew how to wear the uniform. You know, Bobby Cox famously always wore cleats that was like an 80-year-old man wearing cleats in the dugout. And I love that about baseball coaches, that they wear the uniform. Now, in recent years, it seems like coaches, they're getting a little bit lax with the uniforms. It's BP tops, it's hoodies, it's a lot of different things that are being worn. Like, what's your take on coaches wearing the uniform, and how do you like to wear it?
To be honest with you, I don't wear the full uniform a ton.
You're a hoodie guy now, right?
Yes, and part of that is just the weather's been freezing cold. Like last year, I think we played in short sleeves maybe 2 or 3 times. I'm with you. I could go back to the full uniform, I think. I'll speak it over with the staff. We'll see where we get.
Which side do you err on? Like, would you rather have your coaching staff be in full uniform? You know, you can wear cleats or turfs. I don't really care about the shoes. Or should you guys just be dressed like football coaches?
Well, we're not wearing cleats. I'll leave that for Bobby. Okay, Bobby Cox, that's all you. I don't know. I in the fall, like, we play some fall games here and there, and there are times where it's 100 degrees and we're playing fall games and we're wearing shorts and all that stuff. As we get in season, I'm not against wearing the uniform. I think it's specific to baseball and that, and I think that's pretty cool. I'll agree with you.
Okay. So I got on a Twitter battle a while ago, and I talked to Marty Sutherland about this as well. Infield fly balls. How much leeway do you give your pitchers to catch infield fly balls, and what's kind of the standard there? Because I see it so often, Eric, where the pitchers have been stripped of all their rights and they cannot catch a ball, and so you'll have a fly ball either between the mound and the plate, or a fly ball right on top of the mound where the pitcher is not even looking to catch the ball, and you have this convergence of infielders where it's a really tough play and nobody ends up making the play, and they're all just looking around to see who can make that play. What does Iowa Central practice on this?
I know this is very near and dear to your heart.
It is.
Catch it. If it's a play that you are capable of making, and there are some pitchers that should not attempt to catch it, so you got to know your personnel as well. But if it's a play where like a third baseman or first baseman is sprinting to go catch this ball and like run up the mound and try to make a late stab and catch it where the pitcher could just stand there and it hits him in the forehead, catch the baseball. Like, it's an out. And most guys, at least for us, that pitch, for the most part, they were high school infielders. I mean, we don't have a ton of guys that were just POs their whole life, too. So, catch the freaking ball.
How many, I mean, I'm not looking for an exact number here, but looking back on your 2022 baseball season here, how many times did the pitcher catch a pop fly?
It's on one hand. I mean, 3? I don't know.
How many times, I guess, did you miss it? Did you guys mess that play up at all this year? Because when I was talking to Marty about it, like, there was Mazer, their second-round draft pick, first round of the Big Ten tournament. It happened in, like, the third inning of the game.
Right. Yeah, and that was a big play in that game.
It was a big play.
And Mazer, I believe, was a high school shortstop, too. Like, probably one of those dudes that, you know,
he should have made
that play. Yep. I'm sure we probably screwed up some pop-up at some point. I don't know if it was in direct relation to the pitcher not wanting it or looking around like petrified. Well, I know we've messed up pop-ups. The wind blew like 50 miles an hour every single day this spring. So I'm positive we've screwed up at least one of them, but I don't know if it was for the reason that guys were terrified to make the play.
You've been in JUCO baseball for, almost, I mean, not quite 20 years, but it's creeping towards 20 years here, Eric, between playing at Iowa Central and then, you know, you finish your playing career at Grandview, but then you come back and start coaching at Iowa Central not long after that. What is it about junior college baseball that you love the most?
Yeah, I was a junior college player.
Defensive player of the year.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah. I might have caught the occasional pop-up you're talking about. I don't know.
That's right. Well, if I was on the mound, I probably would have called you off.
Actually, this is off topic, but actually I'm playing third base in the Metrodome, like it might have been the very first game of my freshman year, and you're talking about pop-ups here, and I think we're playing at like 4 or 5 in the morning or something stupid too. But I think might have been the first pitch of that season, would have been my first college pitch at Iowa Central. the ball goes up mile high into the Metrodome ceiling, and I guess I was kind of terrified because I didn't know where the hell the ball was, and then all of a sudden it lands like on the first step of the dugout,
and you missed it.
I didn't know where it was.
Oh, you just
I wandered
completely
around.
lost
I had no idea, and then you kind of wandered toward it, and it hit like the front. I mean, it was in the dugout step, but that's a lonely feeling.
While we're talking about the Metrodome, so the first batter my sophomore year, we had a couple of suspensions in the offseason, so your brother, not a lot of range, was playing shortstop for the opening game of the year.
Gross.
And I'm on the mound, of course, opening day starter. And first batter of the year, chopper to short, routine play. Heath Stein puts it 6 rows up in the Metrodome, runner on second. Next batter, fly ball to right field, routine fly ball, right fielder Josh Matheson, soul, rest his soul, loses it in the ceiling, bounces right in front of him, bounces over his head. We're down 1-0. And that's how my sophomore year started.
Tim Flattery stomping around the mound like Max Scherzer.
Yeah, probably both went in as earned runs, too, if I remember our statistician correctly. Anyway, we're talking about junior college baseball.
Here. Yep. Repeat your question. Sorry.
What do you like most about JUCO baseball?
Yeah, again, I mean, it was something I really enjoyed as a player. And we had some really, really good teams. It would have been 2004 and 2005, the teams I played on in Iowa Central. And that probably, piqued my interest in the level, too, just the experience that I had. And then, when I finished up school, Rick Pedersen was the head coach with me as a player. He was still the head coach then a few years later when I finished at Grandview. And we got in contact, and he had an opening on the staff. And now, 15 years later, I'm still at Iowa Central now in a different role. But I guess more specifically to answer your question, I just like the age range of the guys that you're working with. You got a chance to be pretty big influence for those guys as they're all getting away from home at the same time. And I think overall, just the experience I had, I want to, invoke on the guys that we get.
What was it about Iowa Central and junior college baseball that when you were a high school junior or senior that led you to the JUCO route?
Actually, kind of what got me to Iowa Central was number 7, Sean O'Brien.
Atlantic, Iowa.
Yep. Sean was from Atlantic. I went to Harlan High School. So we actually played in the same high school conference. Sean was a catcher that Iowa Central was recruiting. And then as they were recruiting him, I think he kind of actually gave Coach Pedersen my name. And then that kind of started it up. And he came and watched us play. And all of a sudden I was a Iowa Central commit as well.
Now that you're recruiting young kids, what do young kids care about today? Like when you're recruiting 16 and 17-year-old kids to come play baseball at Iowa Central, what matters to them?
There's a lot of different things. Each guy's going to be a little bit different in what they value. But the big thing with us, and I'm sure with any other junior college, is they want a chance to develop, get better, and give themselves an opportunity to get re-recruited to that 4-year school following your JUCO time. So for some guys, that's maybe a 1-year stay. For some, maybe it's 2, and you're gone. That's a major component to it. I think immediate playing time, a chance to get on the field right away as a freshman is a big one, especially I think, with these whack rosters now with the COVID relief years and transfer portal galore and all that good stuff. I think that's a big piece to it. Obviously, scholarship dollars, everyone, wants to be as debt-free with the thing as they can too. Winning, I like to think that they want a chance to win and, have the team dynamic be really, really strong, and obviously winning goes with that. So, for each guy, it's a little bit different, exactly their pecking order on things, but I think those are pretty much the bullet points for most.
You mentioned like NIL and the transfer portal. How much has that affected Iowa Central baseball, junior college baseball? Obviously, we see it. We have got conference realignment at the Division I level that's affecting the University of Iowa. We see Iowa State putting together the NIL collective. We're seeing it at the big major state universities. Is it affecting your level and what you guys are doing on a day-to-day basis?
I think it's going to change the way guys recruit their teams. It gives you another avenue potentially to some players that maybe weren't on the field at that last school or whatever the reason they have for getting into that transfer portal, that could maybe go to the components I think most guys are looking for, like I just kind of mentioned. But It's changing the landscape. It's bizarre. It's different, but
do you guys have your own collective yet? Your NIL collective?
we don't, but if you'd like to start it, that'd be fantastic.
Tom Thumb, Taco Tico, Moonlight Graham should start up the Iowa Central Baseball Collective.
I'm in. Let's do it.
So going back to, I guess, when you and I first met, right? You and I met at Iowa Central. And I always say that going to Iowa Central was probably the best decision I ever made at that point in my life, because I wasn't planning on playing college baseball up until pretty late in the game my senior year. And then I couldn't shake it. I just wanted to play college baseball. And luckily, growing up in Fort Dodge, Iowa Central was right there. I knew Coach Adams. I knew Coach Pedersen a little bit and had the opportunity to go play there. And it ended up being a really great 2 years for me. Met a lot of really great people. We had, just solid guys on the team, a lot of talent on those teams that we were on too. But I look back on it now, and I think maybe I took for granted a little bit just because we had a really good rosters while we were there. But it's not easy to be successful at the junior college level, because even though it is college baseball, it's a totally different type of college baseball than I think most people are familiar with.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I don't think, to your point, if people always realize how much talent are on junior college rosters, there are some really, really good players.
Really good players.
And I think now, again, just being in it for a while now, I think probably the talent level is as good as it's ever been, top to bottom with that. Just that reason alone, I don't think people really do understand that. And I know it's not the sexiest route for people, as they're viewing it.
Very little sexiness.
Yep.
Some sexiness, but just very little.
Of course, yeah. To each their own, right? It's a lot of time. It's not a lot of glitz and glamour all the time with junior college sports. But, I think when people look back on it, a lot of times they're like yourself, they're pretty proud and happy with the experience they had most of the time.
Yeah. So, Eric, I put the list together of 8 things that I think are essential in being successful in playing junior college baseball. And I want to run this list by you. You tell me what you think of the list, if you agree, if you disagree, and things that you would potentially add to the list. So the first thing on my list for being successful playing junior college baseball is you've got to be fully committed to playing college baseball.
No doubt.
What I mean by that is you don't go to Iowa Central, you don't go to Indian Hills, Iowa Western, Ellsworth, any other JUCO out there if you're looking to go to school. You don't say, yeah, they've got a great business department there, so I'm going to go there and then also play baseball. If you are playing junior college baseball, you've got to be all in on the baseball side of it. Otherwise, it's not going to work. If it's priority number 2 for you, it ain't going to work.
And before I go too far, as you know, Tim, Iowa Central is the Harvard of junior colleges.
I've got my AA degree from Iowa Central.
Yep, 100%. Harvard of junior colleges. To your point, yes, you got to be fully into it. There are a lot of hours spent with the baseball program, and that's something too that's different from 4-year schools. We don't have a ton of restrictions on the time that we can spend, so you can essentially turn over every single rock, and from practice time to weight room time to study sessions. It's a pretty structured environment with what we have laid out for the guys, and yeah, you got to be all in with it for sure. And we try to make it fun, of course. We just don't want to grind kids into the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're not involved with it or invested in it 100%, you're not going to enjoy it.
Second thing I got on my list is you got to get rid right away of the I'm too good for this level attitude. So I shouldn't say a lot of kids, but some people end up at a junior college and right away there's a little bit of arrogance to them. I should be playing at a Division I school right now, but for whatever reason I ended up at a junior college and I'm the only, D1 type of talent here. And there's a lot of guys with that attitude when they come in. And if you have that attitude, to your point, there's a lot of really, really good talent and a lot of Division I talent and professional talent on these junior college teams. And if you have that attitude about yourself, that arrogance about yourself, you're going to get humbled really, really quick, whether you like it or not. So you might as well just ditch that attitude before you even show up on campus, because it's not going to get you any friends, do you any favors, and it's probably going to lead you to be less successful than you should be.
That is 100% accurate. If you're the too good guy, there's a large slice of humble pie coming after you in a hurry. Yeah, and then you're just not going to be enjoyable to be around too. You're setting yourself up for a lot of failure there if you're that guy.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, like, Bryce Harper played JUCO baseball. Now, granted, Bryce Harper wasn't like he couldn't make the grade, so he ended up at a JUCO. He did it for other reasons. But, like, Bryce Harper, Albert Pujols, like, the laundry list of amazing future Hall of Fame players that have played junior college baseball is a pretty long list, actually.
Yeah, and to the average person right there you're talking about, no one would probably guess that Bryce Harper was a junior college player for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I mean, rosters are chock full of really good players, and everyone was their best player in high school and all that stuff. And
then you mix in guys from other countries that, like, this was their avenue to American baseball.
Yeah.
You know, from Puerto Rico or the Dominican, a lot of times Australia. You see a lot of Australians at Iowa Central through the years. You mix those type of prospects in, and you just get a really interesting mix of baseball.
Oh, yeah. There's guys are at junior colleges for various reasons. And something that's kind of been refreshing, actually, over the last 15 years of being a junior college coach is I think some people are getting away from the thought. Actually, I think a lot of people are actually embracing junior college now in terms of baseball especially, and getting away from the thought that maybe it's just for the stupid kids who can't make grades. Or
We're not stupid.
No, of course. Again, Harvard junior college. No, there's various reasons that guys end up there, and you know how Iowa Central becomes their home or whatever school they're at.
How important has Eric Sim, the JUCO bandit, been for junior college baseball? Moonlighter, friend of the pod. I've played at the Field of Dreams in the Barstool game with Sim last year. Yep. Just quite the entertainer. He's the biggest probably JUCO baseball guy out there.
Huge advocate for it.
Yeah.
And think what you will of his tactics. I mean, I'm fine with him, whatever. But he's created a lot of buzz for junior college baseball, and the more that the buzz gets going around, I'm all for it.
Third thing on my list is you've got to embrace the suck. All college sports suck at times. And sometimes when you're in these small towns that have a junior college, there's 80 guys on the roster. There's not as many restrictions for how much practice time you can have, when you can practice in the middle of the day. The facilities might not be up to world-class standards. You might not have the same meal plans as other schools. Like, there are some of these things that just aren't as top tier sometimes as some of the elite programs. Like Texas has a lot of things that a lot of other schools don't. But you can drive yourself crazy focusing on those things as negatives. I think one of the ways to make yourself successful at the junior college level is you embrace all of that stuff, as in, like, look at how good we are and we don't even have all of these other things. And once you embrace that side of it, you almost revel in, like, you don't want all of the other things.
It's a complete mindset thing.
Yes.
And it's how you approach it. It's how you approach the weight room. It's how you approach your individual work. Your team defense stuff. Your should the pitcher catch a pop-up? What's your mindset on that, you know? I mean, and that can go for anything. That's just not just, baseball specific. I mean,
yeah,
it's your daily life. Like, there's stuff that sucks that you have to do, and yeah, to your point, you absolutely embrace it.
Well, and to that point, it's amazing how far JUCO baseball has come in the last 15 years since I played junior college baseball, and now, like, I guess what Iowa Central has today compared to what Iowa Central had when we were there is kind of night and day as well.
It's so drastically different from not just our baseball facilities. New field just went up. That's going to be great for our team to utilize. But the campus itself has spread out. I mean, it's just a completely different look. I mean, for sure, when you and I were at Iowa Central students.
How often do you get somebody on campus that is just blown away by Iowa Central's campus? Because you walk through it now, you'd think you were at a Division III school here in the state of Iowa, just how it looks like a really nice academic institution.
Yeah. A lot of guys say, I had no idea that this is what it would be like. as they get on campus. That's a big thing for us. We can get them on camp. I think we got a pretty good shot with those guys oftentimes. And yeah, I mean, Iowa Central's campus now kind of resembles like a smaller 4-year school.
So fourth thing on my list here is you got to find a way to separate from the pack. So a lot of junior colleges, I know Iowa Central was this way. I'm not sure if it still is, but like they would bring in 80 guys on the team, or like you'd have 75, 80 guys at your fall practices and fall scrimmages, and everybody kind of looks alike. A lot of the guys end up at a junior college because they don't have the same measurables sometimes that like guys that end up at D1. So you get a lot of like guys that look like me and you, 5'10" and a half, good looking guys,
Oh,
but
yeah.
And you got to figure out a way to separate yourself. So you got to figure out what you're good at, whether that's, winning every conditioning drill, whether that's owning the weight room, whether that's being the first guy to practice, being the last guy to leave, whether it's cleaning up the dugout. Like some of that stuff could be viewed as brown nosing. And it's like, yeah, well, you only have a couple of years there to make actually like 1 year to make a name for yourself before you're, looking to get recruited again. So you got to figure that out like day one that you're on a junior college in order to separate yourself from the competition that you're facing for a roster spot, and also to stand out for the coaches so that they can talk about you to somebody else.
Yeah, that's actually part of our day one talk every single year is we don't have time. I mean, it's a quick turnaround, right? We have, like I said earlier, 1 year with some of these guys, 2 years with most. But from the day you step on campus, those days are numbered. And, yeah, you got to find your niche. I mean, we said this earlier too. I mean, these rosters are loaded with good players. Okay, and everyone was, their high school's best player. It's a clean slate now from the first day you walk in, and the way that guys go about their business. Again, the mindset thing and how you approach, like you said, conditioning or the weight room or whatever it is. Like you can circle yourself for those coaches, not only for us, but then on the back end of it too. These guys wanting to get re-recruited at Iowa Central. Or out of Iowa Central, or you can cross yourself off pretty quickly too. And I tell coaches the truth, on the back end of this thing. So, I mean, if the kid's a dog, I'm going to say, yeah, he's a complete dog. Like,
is a dog a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, bad dog.
Okay, bad dog. Not a good
dog.
dog.
Not a dog, right?
Yeah. D-A-double-G.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if your attitude is horrible or you do things when it's convenient for you, that sort of thing. Like we tell guys the truth on the back end because, I mean, we want them to come back for future guys in the program too, and if they get a guy that's completely different than what we said, that's not going to happen.
Number 5, be a good teammate. And this is kind of obvious. This goes for no matter what level of baseball you're playing, whether it's little league, high school, junior college, Division I, Division II, professional baseball. You just always got to be a good teammate. But I think it matters even more at junior college where, to my previous point, everybody is trying to differentiate themselves and find their own niche. But there's this fine line of like competing with one another and also like supporting one another that I think is really important on every good team. Where not only like do you want to win the job, but you also want the guy that's competing with you for the job to find his best role on the team as well, because it does nobody any good if the guy you beat for the job, who's also a good player, ends up transferring because they hate you, right? And so you got to be a good teammate.
Yeah, absolutely. And with junior college, like, yeah, people coming in, they have individual agendas as well. They, like I said, at the start of this thing, they want to give themselves a chance to develop, to prove themselves, and then get re-recruited to those schools that maybe weren't available right out of high school. At the same time, everyone's not going to win that job, and how you approach, whatever your role is, and if you don't like your role, kind of the mindset of what am I going to do to change it, rather than being the dude who's sulking in the corner or just has this horrible body language all the time and turns into a cancer for the team. And again, I get the individual agendas for sure, but you cannot have that at the detriment of the whole.
Yeah, I guess my next one, number 6, it kind of bleeds into the first two and also the last one, and it's be coachable. And I think this is really important, once again, at any level of baseball. The players got to be coachable, But especially at a junior college where you mentioned it, the coach at a junior college does hold a lot of power in what they say about you to that next coach that you're going to be potentially playing for after junior college. But as it relates to the first two things that I talked about, which were being fully committed to play college baseball and losing the I'm too good for this attitude, sometimes coach or guys that either come from a lot of high school success or feel like they're above the level that they're playing at the junior college, what I saw was some of them weren't coachable. And because of that, they had a lot of room to grow, but they just refused to believe that, and they refused to take instruction, and frankly, it ruined their career in a lot of guys that I saw.
Guys are going to have to make adjustments. You could play on the best high school team in the state, whatever. I mean, you're going to have to make adjustments. And how you get those adjustments made with each guy can be a little bit different in exactly how maybe you're coaching, especially as you're around these guys so much, like you understand personalities and maybe what makes them tick and what makes them not tick so much. A coach is never going to tell a guy something that he thinks will make them worse. And I don't know if everyone always understands that. Sometimes there's just some hard-headedness, like this is the way I've always done it. And, you got to get over that. You got to be coachable in regards to that. Because it is a different game from high school to junior college. It's a faster game. It's a different game. Guys got to be able to make those adjustments quickly to have that success.
Number 7 on my list is you got to stay out of trouble. And this should have been maybe number 1 because it might be the hardest thing for a lot of kids, especially, you can get in a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? Like, and it's at junior colleges where I feel like sometimes you're under a microscope because a lot of times they're in towns that are smaller. And so there's very few, the only college age kids in town a lot of times are the ones that are going to the local junior college. So if you're out causing a scene in the town, your coach is going to hear about it.
Right. It goes kind of back to what I said before too. You got a chance to circle yourself on a page, and you got a chance to cross yourself off really quickly too. And you could do that a ton of, with your game action, right? I mean, you don't hustle, you spike your helmet after every time you strike out. You're crossing yourself off, right? You got a rap sheet. 4 years coaches don't want to deal with that either. We don't want to deal, with it on our end either. Do 18, 19-year-old kids stub their toe and make some foolish decisions sometimes? Yep, sure do.
How often are you taking a kid into your office after they've done something really stupid? Hopefully they didn't go to prison for it, or jail for it. But then you're talking to them and you're thinking, man, I was kind of this kid 16 years ago.
Yeah, again, I know those guys aren't so naive to think that we weren't probably as coaches doing some of the same stuff that might get these guys in a little hot water on occasion. So yeah, I take that into consideration as I'm speaking with a kid. This is something we've done for a few years now, and you can run kids till they're blue in the face and all that and up and down the hill or whatever. And that's fine. Some kids maybe need that if they get in a little trouble or need a refresher on what to do and what not to do. I like the avenue of doing some jobs that maybe no one else wants to do and have them do some of those.
Like what?
Like we had a retaining wall that came down, and so kids would carry these cinder blocks and stack them in a different location, or that was a Rick Pedersen special.
Manual labor.
Dirty jobs, man. Yeah, Coach P, as you know, he had some creative things to do too. I think there were times where we had some study sessions at midnight because that's when we did our best work. I think that was the exact line, actually.
That's pretty good.
Yep. That's, again, Rick Pedersen special.
That's one of those you can get away with at the JUCO level that you can't get away with anywhere else, probably.
We were just getting our extra studying in.
Yep.
It just happened to be at midnight until 3 a.m.
The last thing on my list is you got to understand that it's only a short time frame. What I mean by that is a lot of times kids go off to college and they're still so young and they don't have perspective yet. So however these kids gotta have the perspective that this isn't forever. This is a short period of my life here where I need to make hay while I can. And devote myself to, I'm here to play baseball, so I've got to do everything I can to be great at baseball, make a great impression while I'm here, because it could, have a huge implication on where I go to school next and what the rest of my life looks like. It's tough to get that through a 17, 18-year-old kid's head, but it's necessary.
I think the term "be where your feet are" is really good.
I like that one.
And again, guys got individual agendas and they're trying to, down the road, create this different avenue for themselves. But it's not going to happen if you don't do the daily stuff in a fashion that you need to. So I think, that's something that we say, be where your feet are. And, kind of the rest of it does in a way kind of take care of itself if you successfully accomplish that.
What baseball coach have you stolen the most from?
Oh.
Larry Stein?
Yep. I guess he was my first coach. Along the way, you pick stuff from everybody. Rick Pedersen was one. Lou Yasinich at Grandview. He coached for 1,000 years. Watching other people too, watching other games, watching the way, coaches do this or that, or, it's not just always people that I think coached you too. If you're paying attention to the whole gamut, there's a ton of information from other coaches out there on, social media. That's easily accessible for stuff too. Like, coaches are copycats like crazy.
Iowa Central needs a big leaguer. There's been a lot of great players throughout Iowa Central's storied history here. We've had a lot of them on the pod. Is there a guy that you've coached that you think could be in the bigs?
There's been some guys go through some minor league systems. Guys played some indie ball, like yourself, Tim.
Yep. Former pro player here.
Yep. Absolutely shocked that you didn't make the show. Yeah, your brother Joe would have had it.
He had a lot of tools.
Yeah. And he's left-handed and 6'4" or whatever. And he pitched for a Big 12 championship team in the number 1 spot. I guess kind of part of me is a little surprised Joe didn't get a little further. There's some guys on this year's team, this past season, a couple arms that I wouldn't be surprised if they made it pretty deep. And obviously you got to have some luck along with it and be in the right organization and the timing and all that. But Brett Sears, right-handed pitcher, John Klein, right-handed pitcher. Those guys have potential to really take this thing a long way. And it's just, does it fall the right way for you as well?
We mentioned some names earlier about guys that have played JUCO baseball. Who's the best guy you've ever coached against? So playing against Iowa Central, who's the best player you've seen out there?
Roman Collins was a kid who played at DMAC. He was pretty special talent. Jake Adams as well. There's always the fear factor that he was going to hit it to the moon.
Scott Shebler
was just crazy explosive.
Didn't you play against Andrelton Simmons?
Andrelton Simmons, yep, played them in the World Series. Yeah, he made one of the best plays I've ever seen in person against us. He got on the mound for fun against somebody else in that tournament too and was just throwing 97, 98 mile-an-hour fastballs just because he could. Yeah, probably him. He was crazy good.
So I had my list of 8 things to be successful in junior college baseball. What did I miss?
It's a pretty good list.
It's pretty good. I put some thought into it.
Yeah, and some of those tie together. And just being accountable and taking ownership of what you're doing. I know, that's probably just some different buzzwords as to what we've already said, but man, if you can own the failure too, I think that's something that's really hard for kids to do. It's easy to own it when you're playing great, but you got to make some advancement for yourself by just owning your failures as well, because then you can clean those up quicker rather than like being the finger pointing dude or something like that. But yeah, otherwise, man, I think your list is pretty spot on.
I remember when I showed up to Iowa Central's practice, my first day on campus, I wore sweatpants to practice. Do you remember that?
I do.
Like now, I wasn't the only one.
No.
I wasn't like I was the kid with sweatpants.
No, back in the day, we didn't practice in pants or team issued stuff all the time. It was drastic. It's drastically different as it is now. Yeah, you'd have some random dude out there wearing like bright orange sweatpants or like
jean shorts.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever saw.
No, there was a couple of kids that tried out.
Oh,
that had jean shorts on.
Yeah, they didn't make it. They didn't make it. Yeah.
Yeah, Gino. Heath and I would call one of them Gino because he had jeans on.
Yeah, Mr. Levi Strauss. Go get him, buddy.
Eric, you're a great Nintendo player in your own right. Do you consider yourself more of a Tecmo Super Bowl guy or an RBI 3 guy?
I call myself elite at both.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. You're not very good at RBI 3, as I recall.
I'm not very good at RBI 3.
Yeah. You think you're really good at Super Tecmo.
I am pretty good at it. And actually, we're recording this on the day of the biggest Tecmo Super Bowl tournament in the country is happening right now.
Oh, well, I'm flattered you're sitting here talking to me.
We should be there.
Yeah.
So who throws the best deep ball in Tecmo Super Bowl?
Oh, boy. You know, it's probably not a premier quarterback of that time because you need the loft, as you know, Tim.
I mean, Scott Mitchell throws a better deep ball than
I've
Dan
seen it in
Marino.
person. He won he won the title game that year in the tournament.
He did.
Yep. A really crafty move to go to the backup quarterback to throw the deep ball.
Anthony Sandvig knows the rosters inside and out. Okay, we'll ask you this. If you were playing in the biggest Tecmo Super Bowl tournament in the United States right now, and you and I get matched up, and the way they do that at these tournaments is one guy picks the matchup and the other guy picks which team he wants. So if you were the one to pick the matchup, what would the matchup that you pick be?
So I get to pick.
You get to pick both teams.
I pick
and then
both
I
teams and you pick which one you want.
Yes.
See, and I lie when I say I'm elite. But I think the playbook, because you can't change the playbook, right?
Well,
you have to use the actual playbook.
In the tournaments that I like to play, and you can't change the playbook, but in this one, in the national one, you can change the playbook.
Oh, that's a game changer.
Big time. So I think what you got to stay away from is you want to stay away from like poor talent, and you want to stay away from like supreme talent. So a lot of times you get teams that are like above the median, but not in that top 3 or 4.
You get like a Chiefs versus Steelers.
Yeah.
You're not getting like QB Eagles versus
you're getting like
Warren Moon's Oilers.
You're getting like Cowboys versus Broncos a lot. Like that's a pretty good matchup there. But I'm asking you, Eric. I'm putting you on the spot here.
All right, I'll give you a matchup.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with a little elite talent. The Raiders.
Okay.
Or the Lions.
I mean, okay. I mean, I would take the Raiders all day.
Reason?
Because they have Bo Jackson and because they have Mark Allen.
They got Barry Sanders.
Yeah, but then
And a mobile Rodney Peete.
Well,
and an underrated defense at that.
You got Andre Ware as the backup for the Lions there. And the defense, you got Howie Long coming off the edge for the Raiders. Yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders roster is probably a lot better than the Lions.
All right. Well, if you want a game after this interview, if you got it here on site.
Let's set it up. Last time I tried to play against your brother, his Nintendo no longer worked. You think you know a guy?
Hank. Probably got into some mischief.
Eric, the last thing I want to touch on is we're saying goodbye to Ed Barber. It's been quite an era. A lot of great baseball teams, JUCO World Series baseball teams have played on that field. It was on campus, just a beautiful setting for college baseball, and it's falling into the ravine, which we kind of always knew was happening, but we had to build that retaining wall. And now you guys are moving, off campus, but onto a field with a green monster in left. Hopefully it's going to be stadium seating, clubhouses. Could be a really, really nice college baseball environment there. Is it a little bit bittersweet to leave Ed Barber behind?
The cool thing about it is we're still actually going to use it. It won't be for game day stuff, like you said, but I mean, we're still going to have some practice time on there. And then obviously we're using the other field to practice on as well in our game stuff out at Harlan Rogers. But yeah, it'll be a little bittersweet. I mean, the way it kind of sits down in the bowl is, like you said, a really cool environment with backdrop and all that. And as you're out on the field and you get a good crowd there, like it really ricochets out there, maybe louder than you think. And I'd have to go check the all-time records there, but there's been a lot of winning there, and hopefully we can translate that over to the new field. But Ed Barber's pretty good to us.
Terry Flattery did throw his 19-inning game out of Harlan Rogers, though.
Never will be topped.
Never.
Unbelievable.
So you can hear my kids in the background. Fitz, Andrew, and James. What do I need to do to make sure that those kids get a recruiting letter from the Tritons here in about 15 years?
Well, yeah, before we got on the mic here, Fitz is moving around pretty good.
He's doing all right.
I'm assuming, I'm sorry, he's probably going to be a PO. You trying to tell him how to hit, although I was very proud of you in that alumni game. You got your first hit after about 97 at-bats. So
yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe Fitz breaks the mold.
Here we go, Eric. If I would have hit at Iowa Central, if I was a pitcher and then, emergency outfielder, fourth outfielder, because wheels and defense, I would have been, I would have been a pretty good outfielder. But what do I hit over the course of a season?
$130.
$130?
And they're all infield singles.
You don't think I hit over 200?
I'm sorry, no. You'd have gave it your all down the first baseline on these ground balls, but you're only beating out so many.
Yeah, you're right. I think I've hit above 200.
Hell of a pinch runner, though.
You got to admit, I'm going to be. I think I make hay midweek. I'm going like 5 for 8.
All right.
Because I'm not going to play it. They wouldn't be giving me my at-bats against the good teams.
Do you remember when you finally got your first hit in that alumni game?
But I was like 32 years old at the time.
Yeah, I got it. All right, yeah, sure. I'll give you a midweek doubleheader. You grab a couple singles and try to steal a couple bags.
I'm just saying, I think I hit over 200. Okay, you've coached. You played with me. You coached 4 flatteries, I think. Joey, Patrick, Jonathan, and Anthony. Give me your best, flattery story from coaching. And it can't be Scott Shebler hitting.
Yeah, Joe gave up one of the biggest
feet
tanks I've ever seen.
In the first.
That might be the longest home run ever hit at Ed Barber Field. So
yeah, we don't talk about that one.
Throw it somewhere else, Joe. Pat Flat when we're doing field cleanup day is one of my favorite stories of all time. He's working, like, we're shutting down the fall season, and the bad weather's going to be here in a couple weeks, and so we're putting Ed Barber to bed, right? And Pat's job as a catcher with a couple other guys is to kind of till up the home plate area and make sure it's, flattened out and all this. So he's got some machine. Oh, he's got a tiller. Yeah. And he stops, as only like a flattery could say in the most flattery way. Coach Stein, look at me. I'm Pat Tillman. I laugh at that often.
That's a pretty good joke. Well, yeah, Tony
Flat got drilled in the face one day with a pitch and had like a giant knot on the side of his face for a while. That was weird.
And you coached David too.
He just kind of wore it like
I didn't even say David.
Oh, yeah, David Flat too.
Oh, yeah.
Should have known him, pitching coach for a while.
Yeah. All right, well.
All legends.
All legends in their own right. Eric, appreciate you coming on the pod. The pod's come a long way since Ben Meyer in that first season, but I'm glad we're here.
I stand by my previous comment. Little to no respect for Ben Meyer, but happy to share the chair with him here.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you for listening to today's episode with Eric Stein. And right there at the end, we were talking about Iowa Central moving their home field from Ed Barber, which is on campus's great setting, to the new stadium out at Harlan Rogers. And if you guys have not been following me on Twitter, I've been posting some pictures of this every time that I'm back in Fort Dodge. I'll go out to check out the new stadium. And frankly, it's incredible. I really think that it is kind of without a doubt probably going to be the best small college and high school baseball field in the state of Iowa. It's really, really remarkable once you see what they've done there in Fort Dodge with the green monster and left, with the outfield wall, the full turf, the dugouts, even their college-sized dugouts. The last piece that they're going to be finishing here over the next 6 to 8 months is going to be the stadium seating, which I think is really going to open your eyes to how cool of a stadium this is going to be. And then they're also going to have clubhouses on each side connected to each dugout where there will be, indoor batting cages for Iowa Central. There's going to be a player's lounge. There's going to be indoor locker rooms. And for Iowa Central and also for St. Edmund and Fort Dodge, this is going to be a premier facility in the state of Iowa. And there's not going to be many places outside of, the University of Iowa that can rival what Iowa Central is going to have here. And it's going to be really, really neat. And I think a really great home field and also marketing piece for that baseball program. As I was thinking about saying goodbye to Ed Barber, obviously I played 2 seasons of high school baseball on Ed Barber. I played 2 seasons of college baseball on Ed Barber, had a lot of great memories out there. I remember actually before Ed Barber was a field, I remember my dad taking my brother Andy and I out to the location of Ed Barber back when it was literally just a ravine off of Iowa Central's campus. And at that time, Rick Sandquist was the head baseball coach at Iowa Central. And then we met with Rick Sandquist out there when they literally just had home plate, first base, second base, third base staked out as literal wooden stakes in the ground with orange tape tied around it. And I remember as a kid going out there with my dad to kind of dream about the baseball field that was there. And I remember thinking, even before Ed Barber was there, how cool of a setting that would be for baseball if they got it right. And it really has been an awesome setting for Iowa Central, for St. Edmund for a brief period of time, for, what has it been? Probably over 25 years now. Unfortunately, that setting also is down in a ravine, so it's been hard to maintain that location. And I think the next generation of Iowa Central baseball is going to blossom from having this great stadium out at Harlan Rogers. It's going to be really cool. So check it out. Follow us on Twitter to check out some pictures there. Special thanks to the Moonlight Graham Show team. Of course, Tommy Griffin, who does all of our write-ups here on the podcast. Brennan Gargano, who does all of our artwork. Brian Sandbig's our producer. And then my brothers, Andy and Neil. Thank you as well to the Moonlighters. Couldn't do this show without you guys. Have a great week out there, Moonlighters.
It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. It's a pretty good program. Broadcasting to the heartland. Sports stories for the everyman. It's Moonlight Graham, yeah. Please follow us on Instagram. You're loving us on Twitter too. You download every pod we do. It's Moonlight Graham.